the Hebrew midwives who stand in defiance of Pharaoh. Pharaoh demands that they kill every male child born. They realize that were they to refuse Pharaoh to his face, not only would they themselves lose their lives, but he would find someone else to do his murderous bidding. Thus they pretend to follow orders, all the while saving the babies' lives. When Pharaoh finally calls them back to ask why they have disobeyed him, they plead powerless, saying that the Hebrew women are lively and deliver the children before their arrival. Pharaoh apparently believes them. It seems that these plucky midwives have simply talked their way out of trouble. Perhaps it's no coincidence, then, that Puah's name, according to Rashi, comes from her keen ability to speak, most specifically to speak to and pacify crying babies. She is a baby whisperer, one who is able to speak to those who themselves are infant, unable to speak. Puah, with her inherent ability to communicate with and calm children, stands as an archetypal force of what creates a tranquil home. It is no wonder, then, that in reward for their defiance, the text tells us that God gives the midwives houses. These gift houses, as enigmatic as they may be, make perfect symbolic sense, for midwives' work is that of birthing through and sustaining households full of new life. Midrash Haggadol tells an illustrative story of Pharaoh sending guards to capture the delinquent midwives. It says that God saves the women by turning them into the beams of a home. The guards search the house to no avail, for Shifra and Puah have become embedded in this house itself. They are the beams, the fortifying forces that uplift and sustain the entire structure. The midwives thus embody the home and all that it symbolizes: family, communication, and internality. For our homes are the internal spheres from which we impact the external world. Indeed, in this episode, these internally oriented midwives are called upon by Pharaoh himself to become players in the external arena of power and politics. They rise to the task and become social activists on the national scene. They enable the redemption of an entire people and the righting of a massive social wrong. As Rabbi Jonathan Sachs points out so eloquently, their story is the first recorded instance of civil disobedience, setting a precedent that would eventually become the basis for the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. Shifra and Puah, by refusing to obey an immoral order, redefined the moral imagination of the world. History's proud line of social activists and conscientious objectors can trace their source back to these righteous midwives and their stand against power. In the poem below, Puah herself calls for a redefinition of what it means to be a freedom fighter. She reframes agitating for social justice in more internal terms. She is an activist who does not so much take to the streets as she takes to the kitchen sink, maintaining that all great battles for justice have their locus in the living room. Puah. Like freedom fighters who pray with their feet, I protest for inner peace. Though paraplegic in comparison to prodigious heels of powerful men, my prayerful wheels spin tales of inner freedom and intone hymns of mindful treatment of children and of kin. I commit to calm the din of crying infants with the easy clicking of my teeth. I speak for those who do not yet know how to speak. My freedom fighting is not political. That task is for a hardier class of Jewish girl. For me, the Egyptian fiend is personal. For the pharaohs I dethrone rule the halls of each of our homes, and the inner alcoves of a private despair that petrifies the children and paralyzes the parents, that imprisons our finest hours of family commitment and contentment. I prefer to peddle wares of wars well avoided, where everyone wins through carefully worded apologies and the timely airing of grievances between friends. For cowering beneath the pyramids of needs, my fiends are the menacing insecurities of adolescents, and the lethal bickerings of their parents, the noisome whines of needy toddlers, and the all-too-common household hollers that oppress our most precious commodities of family. My enemy crouches quietly beneath the crumbs on the living room carpet, a beast between the sheets of a cold-shouldered bedroom where partners sleep, unconscious and deeply out of tune with the exquisite call of their common dreams. I come to loosen the shackled lips of fathers and mothers that they may better utter their astounded praise at the miracle of a house full of filthy shoes, spilled soup, and their children's most innocent mistakes. My task is to counter the armor-clad offensive against love and friendship, to incite a protest against the enslavement of a trillion inner prophets of tranquility, whose gentle-tongued souls are daily buried beneath strong straw burdens of poor communication, and tossed out with the trashed afternoons of a mother's impatience. I come to play the Moses of relational redemption in the face of a sink full of grimy resentments, and so I call forth all fellow freedom fighters for inner transformation, midwives with wise hands, toting Torahs, toting infants, toting pens, all prayer-footed prisoners, protesters, come and herald in emotional freedom from the Pharaonic foe, and let us birth our children into peaceable homes. For when our homes enshrine tranquility, then outer world will follow inner lead, and rock-hard hearts will soften grips, and all that's enslaved will lithely slip into the soft of freedom found, and take off your shoes to walk around, for our houses are the hallowed ground from which God speaks. So call me Puah, who quiets the cries of children, slaves, and the pharaohs inside.